Matthew McConaughey like to say. Matthew McConaughey's a little slow. He's like, all right, all right, all right. Mr. Thompson, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. As you can see, I'm rocking my Liverpool jersey. Yes, we are number one in the Premier League. We just won the league today, so I gotta pay homage, pay my respects to my squad, man. I follow them. That's my soccer team. So that's what I do.
Man, that's what's up. All right, all you listeners and watchers out there, we about to talk Shannon Sharp and marriage, Trump Hunter first days, gold, and the NFL draft. Check out the music. All right, big dog, we are back in the house. What's happening? What's happening?
Oh
Man,
man, thank you for having me as always, man. I appreciate the opportunity to have these sessions because it's important and it's perfect just to be able to come together and just to show two brothers having a good conversation around things that matter, especially with the economy. I appreciate the opportunity.
for sure, man. Hey, man, sure, we running it back. We may keep these things running, man. But the people have spoken. They're like, man, get the boy with the fro. I guess the young man for you listeners out there, y'all know the little boy Reverend. But anyway, my main man with the fro, and then the bald headed dude. He said, man, bring back you and little Red Clifford back here. He back here saying, what's up, man? Yo, let's get right to it so we can just we got a lot to chop up about. So we're gonna talk about
Absolutely.
Shannon Sharp. And this is serious allegations, but also we're going to talk about the effects of marriage and what it can do for your pockets. And then we're going to talk about gold. It's in the headlines, and every time that there's some fear in the street, everybody wants to run the gold, and we're going to talk about how that's performing and how you should put that into your portfolio. Also, Trump first 100 days. Oh man, you see the blue suit he had on at the at the Pope's funeral. My goodness, I think he fell asleep too. And then we'll round it out with the NFL draft. A lot of drama there with Shador Sanders and a whole bunch of other stuff, man. So this is what we're going to chop out about. So have you seen now? First of all, before we kick it off with about Mr. Sharp, we do want to acknowledge that these are serious allegations. I mean,
Absolutely.
I know you do. You have a family. I have a family.
Mhm.
We have mothers, daughters, aunts. So when we talk about domestic abuse or something sexual, somebody being abused, or the R word, look, that those are serious matters. So if this happens to come out to where some of these allegations are true, then that's very unfortunate, and we want to send our prayers and thoughts with victims out there that are suffering currently and going forward. So want to acknowledge that first. Now it has a little bit of entertainment value because Shannon be acting a fool with his show. He's always giggling and all this other stuff, And he recently had Monique, the comedian, on his show, and Monique tried to tell this boy, Shannon, 56 years old, right? And running around hitting the streets, and he's joked about it too. That's why we're taking it light here. Run it back for the seriousness at the top of the episode, but he be joking about how he be dating these young ladies and all that other stuff, and it's hitting his pocket because and this is why we're bringing it up. $100 million podcast contract on the table. It's alleged that he offered this young lady 10 million, and now she coming back and her lawyer for 50 million. So this is why we're talking about, because it hits pocketbook. So man, you know. Should us old heads be running the street, all these dallies and everything like that?
Oh, so you mentioned it, and I'm not gonna make light of it. Like, and one thing I pride myself is I'm not gonna disparage, especially another brother. I'm not gonna do that.
Mm.
That's just not my nature. My Angela Davis fro would get upset with me if I started doing that. But one thing I will say is this: as an older individual, I mean, you would feel like what did they say? Soil your royal oats, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you had figured you've had that done already in your NFL career, right? So now you're at that point where it's like, man, settle down. And again, I'm not telling anyone how to live their lives, but from a monetary perspective, you have to protect yourself. There's nothing more important than you protecting your brand at this point and everything that you do. And my parents, all this is how I live my life, right? Anything I do out in the workspace, even on this particular show, I'm representing not only you as a brand, but myself as a brand and the Thompson name as a brand. So I have to be careful what I say, what I do, how I appear in public. And some people may not feel that way, but for me, I take that to heart. So how I go about my business and how he's going about his business. Again, I'm not here to disparage him, but protecting your money, setting up different entities, which a lot of people do, that trust and offshore accounts and all that stuff. But in his particular situation, I mean, he's in a vulnerable situation because he is a target, and unfortunately, he's feeling that. And the more money you make, the more times you become a target. Because again, I think a comedian said this. He says, "Hey, I don't know what comedian it was." He said, "Hey, Joe, if you're working over there at Joe's Shoes, I mean, you probably ain't gonna get hit with all these, these deals. But hey, but if you become a celebrity, all of a sudden, this is a problem." And remember, Eddie Murphy said that. He says, "Hey, man, I can't go out anymore because when I go out, I go to a club, something happens at the club. Now I get lawsuits coming at all different angles and stuff, and I just stopped going out." So that's
Yeah,
just one
I
of
mean, there's a
the
lot
prices
that
of celebrity.
I had a homeboy of mine. It's his birthday today, and he said, "Listen, I've been married 20 some odd years. I'm 48 today." And he was like, "All I want is for my lady to cook me some dinner, rub my back a little bit." This one Monique was talking about too. And
Mhm.
wear a little something, something, and he said, "I'm cool, right?" my point about it is well-being, right?
Yeah.
It is well-being. And again, we're not trying to tell folks how to live their lives and everything like that, for sure, man. Live how you want, live single, do what you
Mm.
want. That said, it's kind of like freedom, freedom of speech, right? You're free from persecution from your government, but you can't yell fire in a theater, right?
There,
So if
there's
you
no
put
there's no freedom of consequence. There's no You're not free of consequences, but you are free. You're free to say what you want for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So the
Mm.
consequences come down if you put yourself into certain situations, right? And
Yeah,
here's a little
yes, sir.
stats, a couple of stats that are key.
Mhm.
Married couples, on average, have net worth 3.5 times higher than unmarried folks. This is from
Okay,
the Federal Reserve. Married
awesome.
individuals are more likely to own homes, invest, accumulate retirement assets. Overall well-being, marriage is associated with higher life satisfaction and lower
Mm.
rates of depression. Also, married individuals report higher financial and emotional security. These are from the Federal Reserve and Consumer Health, Consumer Survey of Finances. So we have empirical data saying all this. Now, again, we're not trying to tell people, "Hey, man, go out and get married and your finances are going to get right." But there is fundamental data in saying, because we were watching Monique on the show on Shannon Sharp. She was like, "You need to go get a
Mm.
little older honey, right?
Yeah,
Somebody gonna cook on you on your birthday and whatnot.
yeah,
Get them
yeah.
20 years in and everything like that.
Mm.
But perhaps your finances and your overall well being could be in order."
Oh yeah. Not only that, you get that good cornbread too, man. Get you one of them older ones, get you some cornbread and everything else cooked for you at night, taken care of, and all of that. But another stat was here: longevity. Longevity for when you're married, you typically longer. I think it was people that are married live between 75 and 85 years of age versus people that die earlier because they're single. So yeah, there's a lot of stats to that. That marriage definitely helps.
Yeah, and listen, you ain't got to have no, you ain't got to have no. Well, some people do prenups, which is cool, but you ain't got to have no, "Hey, sign here so we can have a protective order," or anything like that. When you're married, man, shoot, and you living good, your money right, you're feeling right, everything, and then here's another thing. It's like, hey, I'm 46.
Mhm.
Like you said, back in my backsliding days and everything like that, had a little fun.
What?
Yeah, what I'm saying, had a little fun back in the day. Hey, man, look, I ain't trying to do that no more, man.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, matter of fact,
Yeah,
talk about well-being. My wife told me, she was like, "Hey, man, you eat too many sweets." So, hey, but shout out to my wife for giving me my grapes. You see, my well-being is
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
already doing well, So I got my food right and I got my money right, man. So, again, we hope that as far as victims out there, for serious allegations, and if something happens, then we take that serious. But Shannon's out here. We're not disparaging the brother, but he talk a lot of trash. and not at all, but he's out there public talking about he don't date his
Yeah.
age, he date his wage.
Hey, you reap what you sow. You reap what you sow, and that's exactly what he's doing right now. But there's two sides of this, right? Because one side could be, yeah, we get married, and all this other stuff. But then, of course, 50% of marriages end up in divorce. So, there's a give and a take, and one of the leading causes of poverty in the United States is
Yeah,
divorce
yeah,
among men. So
divorce, and
I
health.
just wanted to say that out there. I'm
No,
not
you
saying,
got to throw
hey,
that out there, because
hey,
there's
but Kevin Thompson is happily married. Make sure I put that out there because I want my
oh
wife to
yeah,
see
no
this. So.
doubt. Yeah, divorce is really one of the factors that folks say. You know what? Listen, you have gray divorce right now.
Yeah.
That folks that are upwards in age, 50s and 60s, they're saying, look, we raised our kids, we stayed together for the kids. Now we chunking the deuce because
Yeah.
I don't need you, male or female. They're saying, look, we stayed around, but now that we done, I don't need you no more. So
Yeah.
and we see it with our clients, right? We see it with our clients to where when you're married, you got to have a managing money approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to discuss finances, and also too when you if divorce does show itself, then you have to navigate it those ways too. I mean, it's a serious thing.
Absolutely. It's definitely it's all I'm saying is just take care of yourself. Make sure that there's no issues that could possibly come out because you got to protect yourself. Especially if you're a celebrity in that situation, protect yourself is key.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Yeah, even if you're not a celebrity, man, go out there. Man, and for all else, this is the PhD in a brother, right? We had this thing where
Uh-oh.
you do the study, said all else equal. Look, all else equal, right?
Ceteris paribus.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah. Go
Sarah,
ahead.
hey,
Yeah.
you're probably better off, go ahead, get your little somebody that can put up with your stuff. You put up with their stuff, right? And then overall be out better well with your finance. You saw them stats that we just came out with, three and a half times net worth, right?
Yeah.
All this, right? Get yourself situated. Hey, man,
Yeah.
watch the episode with Monique. She said, "Get you somebody around you. Don't be dating your ways. Get somebody your age." My
Yeah.
goodness.
Exactly. Exactly.
All
I'm
right,
right there
all
with her.
right, all right. So
Yeah.
we gonna pivot to gold. There's a gold rush out
All
chat,
right. All
right?
right. Talk about it.
Well, I mean, you would think that we, just rediscovering the West or something like that, and going out there trying to get we in a Wells Fargo buggy or something like that.
Well, we all know who made the money. It wasn't just the people that were out there panning for gold. It was the people that were selling the shovels, right? So, so, so,
For
so,
sure,
so who you
for
want to
sure.
be? So it's the people not out there buying the actual index. It's the people that are selling those indexes to people, and like the Black Rocks and the State Streets and all those other people. They're making all the money right now.
Yeah, they know they are, but there's some evidence that gold is what they call the fear commodity, where when the VIX is high over over 30, over 40, then folks need something to run to. The Whitney Houston style. Remember what she said? I want to run to you. Ooh. But y'all, that's what I just did right there is prove that when you're at karaoke, leave Whitney alone and leave
Mm.
Luther alone. Don't go there. But the fear index, which is the VIX, anything that's over 30 or 40 is alarming. We had some 30 and 50 here recently with all the
Mhm,
volatility in the markets,
mhm.
and folks are saying, well, Bitcoin is somewhat has a historical evidence of acting like equity most of the time with the markets,
Yeah.
right? Even though it's supposed to be uncorrelated and be this decentralized finance type of thing, it turns out to be traditional finance a little bit. So people are
Mhm.
like, well, what do I run to? And now we're having
Okay.
this gold thing, man. Talk about it, man. What's going on, man?
So here's a couple of things. So I just got to reading a book, and I thought very insightful. The book's name was the "What Went Wrong with Capitalism," and so one of the key points was that, like, it said that since in the 2010s, the United States dollar, it went from 45% down to, I believe it was, I'm sorry, 62% down to 45% in regards to its share of, of, of sovereign government's ownership. So what that basically means is there's something going on in the gold market right now, And what's going on is that sovereign governments are diversifying out of dollars and they're buying gold. So that is what's going on right now. So when we look at the world reserve currencies, like we used to have Portugal, Netherlands, Spain, France, and all these other ones. They were all reached reserve status at one point. But what happened to them? What happened was they become debtor nations and people didn't trust them anymore. So they ran from those. And now the United States is the reserve currency. But what could happen to the United States? People are starting to feel the exact same way about the United States. So what are they doing? They're going towards gold. And that's what a lot of these sovereign governments are doing. So in the 2010s, I got it right here. It says the dollar share of reserves has been eroding and has fallen from 45 to 45% from 62% in the 2010s. So that's what you see right now. Japan and all these other people, they may be selling treasuries, buying gold to make up the difference.
Yeah, good history there. And
Mm.
here's the other thing too. To
Yeah.
your point about the world's reserve currency, you
Yeah.
would think out here that you pick up a dollar. The way people do fear mongering, though, is you
Yeah.
pick up a dollar and there's like 700 million inflation on the dollar. Like in some of these other countries like that. It's simply not. It's simply not true. I know that the world has gotten more. Worldly, where it's holding other reserves and holding other bonds, particularly with the U.S. debt and all that. And so people use that sometimes to say, oh, the U.S. is going to just fold and all this other stuff. When in actuality, U.S. treasuries are still the most liquid, the liquid holding and trusted holding in the world. And dollars are, well, you said 45%, so roughly half the reserve currency, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That said, there's something to be said about the way countries behave with their finances and the signals that countries send. And here recently, whether it's tariff talk, lack of confidence in administration, geopolitical risk, or the debt that we carry, folks are perhaps folks meeting other countries saying, hey, we need to diversify a little bit.
These are diversified. You saw Brazil and China getting together. You're seeing China making deals across it. And here's the beauty about it. Now, I think we talked about this last time, but if they're able to do direct strategic partnerships with each other, they no longer have to use the US dollar. So if they're no longer using the US dollar, the United States can't quote unquote sanction them when things go wrong. Like for example, that's the beauty about having everything in dollars. When trade is done in dollars, you can sanction different countries and you can put rules and regulations around them. But if they start going around your dollar, you have no more power outside of military power, but you really don't have any more power. So that's what the issue is right now. And that's what Rubio said a couple of weeks ago. He's like, hey, these countries are starting to do deals with each other directly and not using the dollar. That's a problem. So we'll see what happens. But again, like I said, as for gold, I've always thought this, man. And you just tell me if I'm wrong. I'm always thinking, oh, well, people want to flock to gold. I'm thinking there's zombies in the street, right? I'm thinking zombies are like knocking on my door and they're outside waiting for me to come out, And I'm just like, okay, well, I can't eat the stuff. I want some wheat. I want some rice. I
Yeah.
want something that a commodity or something that I can have and eat and go with my family. Like I can't eat a gold bar. So I don't understand it. But again, it's been a flight to safety for a long period of time.
It has, and when we talk about correlation, meaning correlation means is you got two stocks together. What
Mhm.
do they move in the same direction, or are they move in opposite directions? Right. And for so long, gold has been perceived as moving in the opposite direction of equity markets. A correlation of
Mhm.
one is the same direction, and you start going negative or positive that amount. Then correlation tends to separate. And you talk about something where it go gold, you have correlation, around, 10, point 10, point 20. That means there's
Yeah.
lower correlation. They tend to move in different directions. And let's see, what is gold doing this year? It says gold
Oh, so
is up 13%. S&P is up 6. And you zoom out a little bit, 5 years return for S&P is 67%. 5-year return for the S&P is 87%. I mean, over time, it, either a diversified portfolio or S&P 500 is going to outperform. It's going to have less volatility. All right, because
mhm.
for that return that you get in gold, you have a lot of volatility. So folks sometimes say, well, the U.S. is going to hell. We owe all this debt. Social Security is going haywire. We got all this geopolitical risk and stuff like that. I'm going 100%. Right. And I said 100, like, I'm in Texas,
Yeah,
100%, right?
100%.
100%. Going to gold is something that I can feel, I can touch, And I'm like,
Mm.
first of all, there's not that much gold in the world. And then secondly, if you do go 50 to 100% in gold, then you are talking a lot of volatility, and you're really not going to experience these returns.
Not going to experience the returns, and frankly, the whole gold debate again. Like we have a percentage allocation to gold in most of our client portfolios, so just a disclosure there. But I'm not going to be one of those fear mongers, but I am worried about our country in regards to our lack of fiscal discipline. I mean, if you look at it historically, I mean, since Reagan all the way to Clinton, Clinton had the surplus, but it's still the deficit was still rising at that time. So I mean, and of course Bush just blew it out the door,
Mm-hmm.
and then you had Obama had 8.8 about $8 trillion of an increase, and then you had Trump with $8 trillion with 4 years, which
Right.
is just basically he did what Obama did but he did it in 4 years, and then it's ridiculous, man. But nobody wants to talk about that, and this is not a political show, so we're not going to go there. And then, of course, we had a 2.1 trillion in regards to Biden. So we have all of these things that are continually pushing up debt, and that's why you saw the bond market go haywire about a week and a half ago because we got tax cuts. We got to figure out how we're going to pay for it, and we're going to have how much is going to increase the deficit, and there's no real there's no real individual there that wants to sit here and say, okay, we got to put on the brakes right now to pay down this deficit because 36 trillion, 37 trillion is going to go. I mean, if you're going to have $12 trillion of just interest payments over the next decade,
Mm.
I mean, come on, man. I mean, we
Yeah.
got to figure this out, and that's why again that's why people are flocking to gold.
Right, and it's a lot. And to your point too, I mean, having a allocation to volatile type of assets is can help over time, but it because of the non correlation, even the volatility. Because if you have a little volatility in your portfolio, and I mean like this in your
Yeah.
portfolio as a diversifier for say a core S&P or something to that effect, where you have less volatility, then in times where the S&P and your diversified portfolio are coming down, that small allocation to that high volatile position can help trim the downside just a little bit, because that small allocation may be moving in a different direction at a higher volatility and either pulling the portfolio up or at least trimming the downside. So having some commodities in your portfolio, if it suits you, right, could bode well, just like Bitcoin, right, cryptocurrencies, right, having those type of for those that that people want that allocated to their portfolio. It's That's the DeFi message, is that
Yeah.
the meaning decentralized finance, right? That means the crypto does not have all of these embedded problems, quote unquote, that the debt and all that. So people have to have something to run to.
Yeah, again, I'm not gonna get into the crypto space. I'm reading Zeke Fox's book. I was like, why am I ever touching this stuff? But again, I do own some. I do own some. Just FYI, I own some. Just as like, hey, here's some money. Let's see what happens to it, and call it a day. To me, it's just like the .com bubble.
Mhm.
Like the majority of the altcoins and all the other stuff are gonna go away, right? I mean, you saw what President Trump just did on his coin, right? Trump a couple days
Oh
ago.
yeah,
He
the
said,
meme coin.
yeah, the meme coin. He basically said, "Hey, I'm offering a dinner with the president. If you invest in my coin, you're going to be put into this bucket to get a dinner with the president." His coin went up 50%.
Yeah.
I
See.
don't know what the SEC is going to do with that. They should do something with that. But at the end of the day, it's like that's the kind of stuff that says this is just this is a pump and dump, man. And I think a lot of that stuff's a pump and dump. I do love the Ethereum platform and
Yeah.
what it stands for, and the Bitcoin. Absolutely, I have a Cardano there as well. And this is not an investment show. I get it. This is not one of those
No,
shows where
I
I'm
mean, no, we talk
buy,
we
buy,
talk
buy. You know
no,
what
we
I
talk money on the show. We're all
mean?
things financial planning and wealth
Yeah,
management and all that. We talk about because these are real topics we're having with our
yeah,
clients and people are
yeah.
feeling. So we use the show to talk social,
Mhm.
political, finance.
Yeah,
If all this stuff runs back to how people are feeling and going
yeah.
about their finances, so it does matter.
Yeah, and Ethereum, like I said, Ethereum and Bitcoin, like the platform and the actual infrastructure underneath how they talk to one another
Mm-hmm.
and how things flow, it makes sense to me.
Well,
But all the
absolutely.
other
The
stuff,
blockchains,
yes,
the
like
the
the
blockchain
entire
technology.
infrastructure, yeah,
Oh yeah,
it makes sense to me. Yeah, absolutely.
for sure. I mean, I think that's here to stay, for sure. And even cryptocurrency, not the altcoins, all of you can't
Yeah,
have
all that
everybody
other stuff
survive.
is just the
Right,
other stuff is
but
gonna be like
there's some major
.com. Yeah,
coins that they're gonna survive. And I'm pretty much we're gonna have some people talking about y'all don't know nothing about crypto and all this other stuff. but
hey,
but
well,
even
we can get our boy Tyrone Ross on the show. He'll
oh
talk to
yeah,
you.
man, I
He'll
know
do it,
Ty.
man.
Man, look, that Mr.
Big
Ross. I know he
T.
was. I'll have him on actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, but the whole point about the gold and where
Mm,
where we are as a country, how we manage our finances, and we're going to pivot here to the Trump 100 days here in a minute.
mm.
What does all this mean as far as your pocketbooks? And yeah, politics are one thing, right? But we're talking about policy. So how does that affect your pocketbooks and your portfolios? So
Yeah.
running. I think both of us kind of agree here. Pulling a Whitney Houston and run to you, just running your whole portfolio to gold during uncertainty is probably not the best move.
Not the best move. And by the way, if you're watching it right now, it's up $100 today, or it's up $50 a day. It comes a point in time where it's like, okay, enough's enough, and it's gonna revert back to the mean. So just don't get caught, you know, with that falling knife eventually. But again, having a little small allocation just to diversify, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. All right, homie. Oh, all right. It seems like every
Uh
time we try to get away,
oh.
I know every time we try to get away, but I think this is gonna be going on for a long time because we're talking policy.
You
We're
know what?
we're
You know I got a lot to say about this guy. You know I got a lot to say about this
I
guy. Go
know,
ahead.
I know, and I even got approval ratings right here. All this. I'm pulling out the Sam Donald, the Lester Holt, right? I'm pulling all that out of here in a minute. But
All right.
yeah, the first 100 days. So we gotta talk about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you were talking about consumer sentiment. Consumer
All right.
sentiment. What are the ratings as far as the confidence level and president running the economy? All this because, like Jim Carville said during the Clinton administration way back, he said it's the economy, stupid, right?
Yeah.
So people are living every day with how they want to live now and their hope for the future. 100 days, homie. What you feeling? What your thoughts?
To be completely apolitical, I'm gonna just talk to the policy, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
one thing I've seen over the last 100 days is I've seen avocado prices go from less than under 60 cents to now almost 90 cents, right? And that's just one small avocado. So that's a huge increase. I think it was like 47% increase. So you're starting to see the inflationary pressures within the economy, especially in grocery store prices. Now, he campaigned on, I'm going to get your grocery prices down. Okay. Well, flip 100 days into it, not only have they not come down, they've actually exacerbated in price to the upside. Now we do know why it happened during the Biden administration. Supply chains, people weren't working, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and of course the COVID pandemic.
Yep.
Now we've kind of got worked through all of that, and then boom, we have another shock to the system, and now you're having tariffs on countries that are now pushing prices up for the end consumer. And now what they're saying is that, okay, if we get the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, that's going to lower taxes for everybody. Well, the taxes are already pretty much lower for everybody. But if we get the tariffs, that's just going to add the taxes back to everyone. So therefore, your effective tax rate where you were currently is going to be roughly 23-24%, which is roughly higher than what the TCJA is trying to do. So at this point, the taxes and the tariffs and the revenue are coming from the pocket of the consumer.
Right.
So,
Are we doing the little cup thing that on the corner where we just move?
3-card money, man. It's 3-card money.
We moving the taxes over here, moving over here, doing the shuffle.
Yeah. We don't call it a tax anymore. It's not a tax anymore. Exactly.
Yeah, we call it a reciprocal.
Yeah.
tariff, right? You got to have that. You got that modifier on there to make sure it's that people can stomach it, right? And here's the thing, it just market and political uncertainty is going to be there all the
Hmm.
time, always has been. It's never going away. So when you have geopolitical risks, say wars, you got Putin over there trying to do his thing with with the Ukraine and all that. So war is always here. Got unrest everywhere in the world, always. So that's geopolitical risk far as war is concerned. But geopolitical risk can also be economic, where you're talking sanctions, tariffs, lack of confidence, moving money around, divesting of bonds and all this because the lack of confidence, lack of transparency in, business risk and a whole line of other topics right there, right? So when the presidency matters, right? The
Yes.
administration matters, but not politics, but policy matters because it's hitting people in their pockets and their portfolios.
So you mentioned policy, right? So policy matters, and this is why it matters now because the damage has been done, at least for a couple of quarters. Because as a producer, say I'm a manufacturer, I'm manufacturing widgets, right?
Mm.
So you've told me multiple times my prices are going to go up for my inputs. So what am I going to do? I have three options. I have one, I can just go buy a bunch of it ahead of your tariff and have a bunch of inventory that I possibly can't sell and have to discount later. Two, I can wait to see exactly what you do, right? And then get hit with a tariff. And now I got to pay higher prices. Or three, I can basically say, okay, I'm going to sit on my hands and not do anything and just kind of just wait this whole thing out. I'm going to sit and not do anything. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my fixed costs because
Mm.
that's what I'm certain of. And where do they go? DP, where do they go? Where's the first place they go when they want to cut their fixed costs?
Oh, the grocery store. Oh, fixed cost. Wow.
Fixed costs.
Oh,
Like if I'm a manufacturer, if I'm a company, what's the first place I
oh,
cut?
always. They laying off folks.
There you
I
go.
mean,
And
they
that's
lay
what
they finna do that too.
100%. So as a manufacturer, as a company, I'm going to start laying people off because I know I can offset anything that can come in the future because I can lower my inputs. I can lower my wages. So boom, that hits. And then now I can always rehire. I can always rehire those people back in another 30, 60, 90 days. But that's how I can control what's happening right now. But you know what I can't control? I
Hmm.
can't control the other people that I owe and the people that they owe. It's just like a long line of people that are like, okay, but you owe me. You know how they get paid 30, 60, 90 days. Hey, I need to get paid here. I need to get paid here. And then you have all these different manufacturing inputs that aren't getting paid. And then you have this business slowing down, this business slowing down. It's a domino effect. It's not good for the economy. The damage has been done, and you'll start seeing it in the numbers here shortly.
Yeah. The damage is being done here in the short term and could be for the long term. And going back on my notes, I think I said the S&P was up, but no, it's down, obviously down. But
I was gonna
uh,
say that. I was like, man, what's epic? I said, what? I said,
yeah,
I
yeah,
want that
yeah,
S and
yeah,
P.
yeah. Yeah, just down 13%. So yeah, a little correction there. I feel like 20 Kornheiser from Pardon the Interruption. He was like, "Yeah, that was wrong." You get it in the ear, the little bug in the ear,
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
"Here's
yeah,
a correction, right?" Yeah. And
yeah,
speaking of
yeah.
corrections, right, being the S&P down 13.5%, we're just outside of the correction territory. We haven't gotten to the crash where or a bear market where we got 20% crashes, although we had, cumulatively for about 3 or 4 days about a month
Yeah,
ago, right?
yeah.
We're still in that I wouldn't there's a pivot but a non-panic, right? So
Mhm.
with this, what we're talking about as far as the economy, the politics, and the uncertainty, right? What people can forecast and don't have any confidence in right now. We're not in that panic mode. There is a pivot though to where you can raise some cash on hand just a little bit, right, to cover 6, 9, 12, perhaps 18 months, you know, to where, hey, if you get laid off or there's another There's another executive order. You come in and you get the Enron treatment. I was in Houston, by the way, when they threw everybody out in the street at Enron, right?
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Ken
And,
Lay. Ken Lay.
right, right. So when folks can do with their portfolios, right? It's not advice, but pivot, not panic. You can raise a little cash.
Yeah.
Hey, cash is queen and king, and also be trimming those portfolios a little bit and say, let me wade the waters a little because the uncertainty is there, no question.
Yeah. And Wall Street hates uncertainty. And that's why I'll say this is different because this is self-inflicted. And we don't know, not myself, not anyone on Wall Street knows exactly what's going to happen any given day. This man just comes out a couple of days ago and says, China, I love President Xi. And you do a better voice than I do.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna no, I love President Xi. We're gonna bring them down. It's not gonna be 145%. No, I just put that number out there. It's not gonna be 145%. And I'm like, okay, then what is it gonna be? So he's blinking right now. And China sees that because China came out over the weekend. And what did they say? We don't care. We've been poor before. We're a nation of 5,000 years. You guys only been around for a couple of hundred.
Right.
We're going to be okay.
You're gonna be
So
okay.
exactly. So when people start talking like that, that's how you know it gets real. Because guess what? I don't want to say this, but China is a nation where if the government says something, people may get mad about it, but people will do it. United
Yeah.
States,
No, you're right.
nah,
Right.
yeah,
Because there's a different regime over in China.
yeah,
But you do. Hey, you fall in line, right?
yeah,
And over there, right? I would say this to have a little fun, right? And again, apolitical, so politics neutral, but
yeah.
policy positive. So we're gonna
Okay.
we're gonna talk it for both ways. So like somebody said, well, yeah, the way you hit your shows and some of the stuff that you talk about, Dr. Cherry, I can bet the way you vote. All right. Well, yeah, right. So, and I'm like, well,
Okay. So what does that mean?
yeah, what does that mean? I said, I got clients on both sides of the aisle. But what Michael Jordan famously said, right?
Yeah,
He was like, well, Republicans buy Nikes too.
yeah, yeah.
So you got to serve everybody, right? And
Mm,
then align how they go about their household. This is where we're talking about values, right?
mhm.
Attitudes, beliefs, right? So it's our job to remain objective, introduce the information, and then if folks want to align according to their values, then we help them do that. If it's not in their best interest, hey, you got to sign something, right? But if it's but if it's a core value and you really believe that, then it's either be served here objectively, or a client can leave and be better aligned with the political value.
Do you know what's funny? What you just said. And somebody comes up to you and says, "I bet I know the way you vote," and I'll say, "I bet I know the way you vote. I know exactly how you vote." So you asking me that question just told me how you voted. So we're on the same page here.
Yeah, I just want folks to vote, because the thing, that's why I always post. I don't say what side of the aisle. I just say, hey,
Yeah,
let's go out there and vote. Because I was sharing with somebody the other day that
yeah,
one of the beautiful things, and there's a lot of things we could chop it up about socially in the past and in the present. So
yeah.
for sure, right? But I found it fascinating that for the most part, right? Even though we're in the grocery stores, out in the street right now, I just read something on Reddit to where people are not talking to each other as much as they did, back in the day and all this other stuff. We're running past each other. We got these earbuds in our ears and everything, right?
Mm.
So maybe there's some divisive nature, maybe just society just built this way. But I was like, isn't it somewhat beautiful that we could cast these votes, talk all this shit, right? And nobody's
Mm.
dying in the street, massively, right?
Not yet. I mean, I don't want to put that out there, but god dang, I just know that there's a lot of division. I mean, we saw what happened back in January 6th and all that stuff. I'm not gonna go
Yeah,
there,
yeah, no,
but
there's a lot of that, there's a lot of that. But if we encourage folks to just to vote, and also
yeah,
be informed, right? Because it would be
yeah.
informed, so it could help your families, right? The people that you love, protect, your overall well being. And this is why it's
Mhm.
important to investigate and look at the policy, so you can avoid panic, avoid propaganda, right? Make good pivots, make good adjustments according to the policy at hand, to where it talks about your pocketbooks or your portfolios. And also, what your aspirations are, because hope matters.
Yeah, and going back to the Trump regime, there's a House bill right now in congressional in the House Congressional Committee. They're talking about reducing federal benefits, and what they're talking about is going from a high three to a high five, which means the highest 5 years of your salary will be counted towards your benefits moving forward versus a high three. They're also talking about increasing the amount of insurance premiums that you pay while you're in retirement, and they're also talking about what was the last one? I can't recall the last one.
Yeah.
I can't recall the last one, but it was a couple other things. Oh yeah, the Social Security supplement. So if you retire before 62, you usually get you're able to take your FERS, and now they're saying we want to get rid of that supplement altogether. And I'm like, man, they're just trying to change up all these people, man. These people work for our country.
Yep.
And now you're just gonna just not only push them out, but just start whacking at their benefits.
Wow. Policy matters. It affects people across the board. Here's some
100%.
information here. Let's see. Current rating for 100 days. All right.
Okay.
Current rating for 100 days is 41% right now. That's a little low. That's kind of like what Maverick was telling Goose, I think it was, no,
it wasn't Goose, it was Cougar.
Goose.
It was Cougar. You're a little Coug.
Oh, so you're a little low, Coug. Yeah, you're a little low. Right, you're
That's
a little low, Coug. Right, so 41%, man, you're a little low. Right.
Yeah.
Other presidents, 100 days. Obama 63%, Bush 62%, Bush W. Clinton 55%. So those are the last few, right? So
okay,
we're running a little low. And also too, we got 47% of Americans confident that Trump will manage the economy well. So it's a little low, right? And 18% confidence on the blue side of the aisle, 85% confidence on the red side of the aisle. So those are some of what's going on out there.
I saw an interesting stat. It was on Twitter, and don't hate me for that, by the way, because sometimes I look on there. It said 82% of the people that voted for Donald Trump say they would vote for him again, and I was like, okay. I said, so you're basically telling me that 18% of the populace of Donald Trump voters are saying they're not going to vote for him again, which means that he would lose in a landslide. You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I'm like, what?
Yeah,
I was like, what? That's not it. I mean, but that was coming from the right, saying like, oh my God, look at this. Like they were pushing out there saying this is good. This is good. People still love him. I'm like, no, you just lost 18% of the voting base. That's not good, man. So, anyways.
Yeah, no,
it's funny how people
things like this matter, because when we talk about behavior systems, because you got finance, behavioral finance, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have biases, confirmation bias, all of this, right? And at the end of the day, how much further can we go with certain policies affecting everyone across the board? I just bought me some eggs from Costco today, $9 damn. All right, for 24 eggs.
Yeah.
I was just buying them. I was just buying them Johns for $6-7. A couple months ago, they up to $9, right?
Yeah. And like I said, just to end it real quick on the Trump, like I said, a lot of this stuff will be felt later in the year. So I saw the last job numbers that came out, that 4,500 jobs were lost in the government, and those jobs are going to be deferred, of course, from September, October. So you're going to see those later. But I also saw a tick up in state and local governments jobs going up. So yeah, I thought it was very, very sure. I was like, wow, I thought they were cutting jobs, but this like they're increasing though. So interesting. I guess they're bringing people on. Maybe they're just restructuring people. I don't know.
Yeah, well, all right, we're gonna round it out. Man, look, a lot of drama at the NFL draft. A lot of drama going on. Particularly with the Sanders family. And kudos though. Listen, first of all, people got to put stuff in perspective. All right, you're talking about, and you're ex-athlete, New York Yankees. I want you to talk about this, right?
Okay.
Which is, you're top 1% of 1% of 1% of what you do. There was 250 young men, right, drafted, over the last couple 2 or 3 days, right?
Yeah.
Just to get there, right?
Yeah.
And be able to sign a contract. And I'll give you some stats on in a minute about round per round, how much these young men make, right? Uh, that's an achievement in itself. I don't care. Hey, first round is cool, you know, but if I get the chance to play and get drafted, and I get drafted in the fourth or fifth round, and both of my children make that,
Mhm.
you got a good head start.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
for particularly all the traffic was around Shador Sanders dropping from one round to the I think it was the fifth round, right, to going to Cleveland,
went to the fourth or fifth round, something like that. I
right,
can't
fourth or
remember.
fifth
Yeah.
round. I'm like, hey, both the son or the second son signed a free agent
Free
signed
agent
contract,
contract. Yeah,
right?
the Tampa.
But
Hmm.
hey, you got drafted.
Yeah. 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 I mean, now the issue I have with the entire thing, and I know people have said it. Again, one thing I'll say is I am not a pundit. I'm not Mel Kiper. I don't know any. I don't know what they're looking for. So I'll just leave it as this seemed like there was something that was going on that didn't seem quite right. I've seen some quarterbacks go. Matter of fact, I have quarterbacks in my phone that played in the NFL
Mhm.
that I was like, okay, whatever. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, like they weren't as good as Shador Sanders because I watched every one of his games, and I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, he holds onto the ball a little bit long. Yeah, he needs to learn how to do certain things. But again, accuracy was great. Not quick and all the other stuff. Maybe doesn't have the body, but I mean, neither did some of these other guys. But all I'm saying is, from an NFL perspective, getting drafted, that's what if you go to school, that's what you're looking to do. So kudos to the people that were drafted. Kudos to all those that families that have been changed and from a generational wealth perspective. And kudos for those who are going out there and chasing their dream. I applaud
Yeah,
that.
I mean, for sure. And I would say, listen, yeah, kudos for those young men getting drafted. All right, but
Yeah.
there are microaggressions. All right, that were very prevalent out there. Just like when people had our pocket watching, right? And when people are like, "Oh, I read this the other something on social media the other day that said you can't see wealth. Don't be flashy. Don't buy this car. Don't buy this house. All you see is you see the house or the car or whatnot, but you don't see the car payment, you don't see the house payment. First of all, that ain't none of your damn business, right? And
Mm-hmm.
don't tell me you can't see. Well, I can see those gated communities. Hell, I'll be in one myself in a couple of years, right? So I can see that. Yes, you can see well. Now you don't. You don't know if people are over leveraging themselves and all this other stuff, right? But the point about it is if look at someone's character, look at how somebody's carrying themselves and stuff like that. Don't make microaggressions or assumptions about something either by 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 appearance or lack thereof. All right, because that makes asses out of everybody. And so there were microaggressions like flashiness. I put these in quotes because people use them as key code words, right? And confidence, right? People call them arrogant, right? And then there are stories coming. I remember Dan Marino, right? He had a story out on him back in like '84, I think it was, that made him slide down the draft. And you do
Mm-hmm.
some background check on him. None of that stuff was true, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when folks are talking about arrogant, which is which people say that could mean confidence, right? But they
Mm-hmm.
use it as a microaggression, or there's not fitting the narrative of poor dad, poor mom, coming out from the hood or anything like that, and you already coming from generational wealth, such like the Mannings and whatnot. So if one father could be a good father, don't let another father not be a good father. So if it was on talent, okay, cool. Hey, that's what it is, right? If it's on narratives that you're not going to fit this particular locker room, okay, cool. But we can do so, without the microaggressions.
Again, um, I don't know what happened and what caused it. I mean, I like to believe I don't know. I'll say that because again, my Angela Davis fro. I don't want I get the Spidey's tingles, right? But I would like to believe that what I do believe is not actually true. So I'm gonna say this. I'm trying to be politically correct here. You know what I mean?
Hey,
So,
man.
um, what were there some things where okay, having a father in your corner that's willing to die for their kids is never wrong. is never wrong. And Dion is that strong black father that
I would say
put in the
father in
put
general.
yeah, strong father that in his situation it may push people away in regards to they don't feel like when you have that kind of a presence in a person's life, you can't control somebody anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like you mentioned before, the poor black kid coming out of the hood and all that stuff. Well, you can control that person unless because you can control them with the dollar. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
you got to do this, and this is your money to do it. This is a carrot and a stick, right? But there's no carrot and stick with this guy. He don't need your money. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He don't need that. And when you don't have that control, and again, I know the Mannings and saying the same way, but if you don't have that control,
Yeah. And also,
especially
yeah, and also too,
especially in
like,
our community, that it changes the whole dynamic.
yeah, yeah, it changed the whole dynamic, no matter who you are. So I think that it goes to show. I write this a lot about this in my book about self worth, self value. I talk about my parents a lot and their decisions in order to invest
Mm-hmm.
in my sister and I, right? To have confidence in oneself, to use the tools that you have, right? And they also take a lessons on the difference between being humble and humility, right? Having humility is knowing your place in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being forced to be humble, which is making yourself small at the expense, at the expense of making somebody
Someone
else
else.
big. All right, we
Mm-hmm.
ain't doing that, right?
Yeah.
But having some humility does work. So, and I wouldn't even necessarily start playing the game. Be genuine in who you are. All right. But like my grandfather used to say back in the day, is when you are going about life, don't let nobody else see your business. Don't let them see you coming. Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes you be genuine in who you are, but sometimes you got to navigate business waters and public waters, and don't be disingenuous or fake. But also just don't announce all the shit you're doing. The games will be the games will be sold, not told.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
there's some lessons to be learned on both sides of the, but I guess there's a pun since we were talking about politics earlier. The both sides of the aisle. All right. Because it did cost money. Let's look at this. The first round of the draft, right? First 10 picks, 20 to 40 million guaranteed. Late first round, 12 to 17 million, right?
Mm.
Second round, 6 to 10 million, and then another 2 to 5 in the later rounds. I mean, so we're talking
Mm.
about a $40 million slide, right?
Yeah.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, like you said, you got generational wealth passing through already, and I think he made something like $4 million in NIL
Yeah,
money,
he had
something to
40.
that
Yeah,
effect.
yeah. So I mean, he's fine. You know what I mean? But I guess the issue is this. I mean, I think, and that's one thing I think is going to happen moving forward is these NIL deals. These kids that are searching for that money in college, I think that's going to ruin their draft prospects moving forward. Like I know this one kid from Tennessee. I don't know his name. I don't follow college football very much, but these kids that are like, hey, I'm walking out of here. I'm going over here. This, that, and the other. NFL is gonna. What I think is happening, and you tell me. I think the NFL is trying to say, okay, how can we control the
Mhm.
moves of college football players before they get to us?
Mm.
And I think Shador Sanders, in my humble opinion, was one of the first ones that they're going to say, look, you guys chasing this money and doing all this stuff in these high, because I think he was like second most in NIL money in regards to
Yeah.
like athletes in college
Mhm.
football or college sports. So I'm saying, you guys doing this is what's going to happen to you. You get what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Quinn
No doubt.
Ewers, Quinn Ewers from Texas, he had a big NIL contract,
Sure
and
did.
now he went to the seventh round.
Yeah, and lost out on some bread. You know.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm thinking that is a control move for the NFL to these kids and to these kids in college. It could be. I don't know.
Yeah, it could
Maybe I'm
be.
going. Maybe I'm going too deep.
No, no, no. I mean, we chop it up on the show. Well, speaking because we talk about how it relates to folks' pocketbooks and portfolios, right? And we manage people's finances for a living.
Yes, we
Some of the
do.
lessons that we can learn as far as sudden wealth coming in, right? So
Hmm.
whether it be inherited IRAs, inherited money, or bonus money that you get, or restricted stock units, right? Sudden wealth. What can we do about it? And especially these young folks, but also folks that are high income folks that are just in the professional world, right? What do you do with that money? Because we're talking about protecting yourself, having some cash, setting some money aside, avoiding non-intentional lifestyle creep. I like a lifestyle creep if it's intentional and you have a plan, right? But setting some money away, setting some boundaries with family, right? So when you have sudden wealth, I think that's the biggest theme with money coming to these athletes is what do you do to protect and start to plant seeds and preserve wealth?
I mean, that goes into estate planning, right? I mean, we talk about trust accounts. We talk about revocable living trust for you and your family. Like you want to be able to start putting money and protecting it, getting it out of liability, and getting it away from liability because you are now a target, right? So if I'm driving my car and I hit somebody and they see, oh, it's Kevin Thompson or DP, and they hit me and they had this great show and I know they're making millions of dollars. Oh, my neck hurts all of a sudden, right? You know what I mean? So it's all about protection. Protect all your assets. Move them out of your own name. Protect them. Make sure that if anything were to happen to you and somebody wanted to sue you, they could sue you all day long, but you don't have any money. It's somewhere else. So just make sure that you protect yourself.
Yeah,
That's just my 2 cents, man.
no doubt. And I'll close with one of my favorite, my dad, man. He got some isms, man, that are fantastic. I
Uh-huh.
think I'm gonna write another book and just write about my pops and my moms. But he said, listen, man, listen, son, you gotta put some money where it ain't. You gotta put
Okay.
some money where it ain't. If you ain't got no cash on hand, right? If you were you're putting some to the side, you're investing for your future, right? Pay yourself current and future. Put some money where it ain't, son. Right. So you can when things go down. We talked about Trump for 100 days. We talked about the fear index stuff, gold, and all this other stuff, and then talked about divorce and the first day, all this other stuff. Put some money where it ain't. Right. So you can
Uh,
have some freedom of decision a little bit, and also wade some of the waters of choppiness and uncertainty because life is going life. There's one thing certain in life is uncertainty.
well, last thing I'm going to say is you talk about putting money man, I've always said this, and we talked about this last time. I think we talked about this last time. If I am getting 3 to 4%, 4.5% inside of a money market account, and that's absent risk, why would I take additional risk anywhere else to get maybe a 1 or 2% additional return? It makes no sense. And if I have cash right now, I'm throwing all my cash in the money markets and making the decisions on down the road. Like, hey, maybe I'll pull some of this money out and put it over here in the equities. Maybe I'll pull some of this money out and put it over here in my life insurance policies. Maybe I'll do X, Y, and Z. But have that money in that money market account because getting 4% right now at well, I'm going to put zero risk with quotations because we saw that money markets broke the buck in 1997 and 2008. So
Right.
this
And
just
you also have to, you
quotations
have to
there.
pay you have to pay a little, you have to pay interest on
We pay tax on
ordinary
your
income on
interest.
interest, so that 4% is like
Hey, but
chew.
still, it's better than
But
nothing.
still,
You know
yeah,
what I
but
mean?
still. So hey, that investment account and savings account location is key. So diversify across these areas, and so you can set up your money to where it could be in little buckets in order to handle things. Man,
Like Wu Tang Financial, diversify your bonds.
yeah. My man. Hey man,
Yeah,
love you, man. I'm glad we're running this back where we serving
I
everybody. When we
appreciate
talk
you,
about the
man.
people, we're talking about the human condition. So we doing it
Yes,
one
sir.
more time, and I know we're gonna continue to run this back, man. Love you, big homie. Hey, if y'all like the show, hit that subscribe button. Go check out Nine Eye Capital Group too. He has Kevin Thompson, my man, has a YouTube page. Be sure you smash that subscription button. Then you smash the button on Life Money Balance. Go visit Nine Eye Capital Group. Go visit Concurrent Wealth. Check us out. You can follow us in there, and we always dropping gems on our social media. All right, y'all.
Yes, sir.
Good night.
Appreciate it.